Um, as I've been doing parenting classes here over the last year and a half, I've seen what I would call maybe some good moms that just need some push in the right direction, but I've seen some that maybe they were just bad moms. I don't know. Sometimes, Tracy gives me that look, like, uh-oh. Sometimes I think there are just people who are made to be mothers and some of them who weren't. They just, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. But I have yet to find the perfect mother. Have you found her yet? The perfect mother? I often ask in my classes, what are some good traits of a mom? Or what would you think were the best traits of a mom? Give me some ideas. What are some of the best traits of your mother, somebody else's mother? Loving, okay.
Always putting others first.
Putting others first. Okay, fresh cook. What's that? That's.
I'm not perfect.
So, if you were going to come up with the one thing that a mom should do, what role would that be? What should a mother do? The one thing that she should do. Love Jesus first. Can you beat that? What's that? Well, I think if you love Jesus first, you probably would be encouraging. You probably would put others first oftentimes. Except today, of course, and then you're first today, right? No? You don't even get today? Oh, come on. Taffy's here for you. Stacy's behind you.
Jesus is still first.
Okay. All right. Let's put that aside because that's a given. But I asked the mothers, I said, so what do you want for yourself in life? What do you want for yourself? And then I asked them, okay, so what do you want from the relationship with your husband or your significant other and or your children? What do you want from those relationships? And those are the kind of questions I get to ask them, and I get varying answers to that, but most of the time they want to be a good mom. They want to do the right things. They want to be there. But yet sometimes we struggle, I think, to come up with what is the right thing to do. But if we can follow God, follow Jesus, obviously we're still going to do some things wrong, right? But if we're following Jesus, it can really make a difference for our kids. And as I was looking at the Bible and looking at mothers, and I couldn't find the perfect mother in the Bible. And a matter of fact, I found some pretty bad ones. If you really go into some of the kings and their mothers, they weren't very nice. Yes? Solomon what?
The women that were fighting over the baby.
Okay. The one that was willing to give up her baby rather than have it die. Yes. And briefly, that would be one. Okay. But if you look at Proverbs chapter 31, and it talks about the title is the wife of a noble character, but a wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of his life. She selects wool and flax and works with her eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it out of her earnings. She plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds a staff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gates, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over her affairs, the affairs of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Whew. You got all of those? You know, I wonder when I look at this scripture if he wasn't just taking all the things he liked about different women and putting them together and saying that was his mother. That's a lot. To be that's like the perfect mother. And that's the only place in the Bible where I see a perfect mother. When I see it actually worked out, I find that there aren't so many perfect mothers. As a matter of fact, the first mother that we think about is who? Who's the first mother? Eve. Okay, what did she do to all of us? She sinned, right? She ate of that fruit, the forbidden fruit, didn't she? And all of us have suffered ever since. Now, I don't know that any one of us probably would have done the same thing, obviously. That's the way, I see it, that we all would have done the same thing, but she happened to be the one that did it. Okay, and so if we look at her as a mom, well, her first act before she was a mother was to sin and create a lot of problems for all of us. Well, that comes to fruition actually real quick in her own children. So what happens with her own children? She bears two children, Cain and Abel, right? What happens? Cain kills Abel, right? Think about this. Your own son kills another one of your sons. And you're the mom. That's got to be tough to have lived through that. Now, to say that she did all bad things, obviously, no, she didn't do all bad things. She was probably a good mother in many things, but she not only found that her son killed another son, but she had to live with the death of a son. And that's very tough, to live with the death of a child. But she went through that. And think about this, though. Eve didn't have anybody to help her. Taffy, you said you call your mom every day, right? Eve had nobody to even ask. God, I guess, but really basically nobody to ask. What do I do when a child does this? How do I react? What do I think? What am I supposed to do? She didn't have all that. But yet, so she wasn't perfect, but do you think she was a good mom in general? Most likely. We don't know. We don't know for sure. How about Sarah? We think about Abraham and Sarah. How was Sarah? Think about her. I mean, she wasn't a mother for a long time, was she? I don't know if you, and I would want to say she was patient, but she wasn't, because what did she do? She gave somebody else to her husband so that the promise would come through him. And God said, no, the promise isn't going to come through him. And then when she was told at something like 98 years old or so, she was told what? You're going to have a child by this time next year. What did she do? She laughed and kind of got chastised for that laughing, right? But she laughed. But yet I think if you think about it, as a mother, she probably did pretty good. We don't really know much about how she acted as a mom. Okay? Her son didn't kill anybody. We know that. Wasn't a murderer. So that's good. The challenges were there. I don't know. We don't know what she did, but I think about it and I think, she waited a long time to be a mom. And if you think about people who become moms late in life, or haven't been a mom for a long time, and suddenly she could be an inspiration to them, that they could go back and say, hey, look what happened. God took care of us. God blessed us late in life. Well, God bless them late in life. And maybe I think there really was some patience involved in there when you wait that long to become a mom. And then you become a mom and the celebration that happens and the joy. Sarah is one that we can look up to in that way. But then Isaac's wife, Rebekah. What do we know about her? Was she the perfect mother? Didn't she? What's that? No, Rebekah only had 2 babies. If that's okay. She had twins, right? But what's that? She favored one. I mean, that's a challenge with parents, to not favor one child over another. But both parents in that case, favored one over the other. They picked the opposite. Of course, Dad, he had the one that was the rough and tumble one out. He would go out hunting and all that kind of thing. That was his favorite, and she had her favorite. He was the kid that spent more time around the home and wasn't into hunting, but she was also very deceptive, wasn't she? And she taught her son Jacob to be deceptive as well. And in the case when getting the blessing, how she had him dress up like his brother, and then go in, and because her husband was kind of blind, Isaac was kind of blind by that time and couldn't see, and so he went in and took over his place, got the blessing as the younger son. And so the deception that happens. And I think if we look at a lot of people in our lives, we see that there's some of that deception and that favoritism they show towards kids. And as I look at this, we still look at imperfect moms here, aren't we? Do we always get bad children from bad moms and good children from good moms? Think about that as we go along, because Jacob ended up, in the long run, being a pretty good guy, but it took a while to get there, okay? Even though he had some challenges with his own children. So then we have probably one very few even know who she is, Jochebed. You ever heard of Jochebed? This may be one of the best mothers of all in some ways. She had 3 children in the Bible that we know of. One of them was a murderer. One of them was eloquent at speech. One of them had a lot to do with miracles and plagues. Moses' mom. Think about Moses' mom. Jochebed is her name here. Think about what she had to go through as a mother. She raised had her child born, and then had to give up her child. Give it up she had no idea what was going to happen. What did she do with that child? Put it in a basket and put it in the Nile, didn't she? And his sister followed to watch where it went, right? Which would be Miriam. But yet, she had no idea what was going to happen to that child when she put that child in the basket. I think sometimes we all have that in a lot of ways. When we send our child out somewhere to do something, and they graduate from high school, and all of a sudden they're going to go do something different, and they're going to leave the home, or they get married, and you just pray that the guy that they're married to or gal that they're married to is going to be good to them and do the right things. But you send them out a lot of times not knowing what's going to come back or whether they'll ever really come back. We have to let them go. And we watched her let her child go, at a baby even. And think about those moms that have had to give up their children for some reason or another. They just couldn't take care of them. She could be an inspiration for a lot to come back and be the kind of mom that she was. And the thing is, the nice part about it is she got Moses back, and what did she do? She got to raise Moses and nurse Moses still. I'm not quite sure if Aaron was younger or older or why there wasn't an issue with Aaron. He must not have been during that time when when Pharaoh was trying to kill the babies. I'm not quite sure how Aaron came in there and didn't have a problem too, because during Moses they were trying to get rid of all the baby boys. So I don't know. What's that? No, we're talking two different things there. That's okay. So I don't know, but anyways, Moses was taken care of, and because she prayed for him, and she was there for him, and she was able to do that. And mothers are that way. Sometimes you have to let your children go out and get hurt, and then hopefully they'll come back, and you can help them through it. So, but her son was still a murderer. The first act of Moses' life that you read about, besides being in that, was that he killed the Egyptian, right? Then there are mothers like Bathsheba. I'm not quite sure exactly what to say about Bathsheba. Maybe she was a little seductive. I don't know if she kind of had some purpose in where she bathed, but maybe not. Maybe it was just King David happened to see her. But she went through a lot as well. If you look at her life, some of the things she had to deal with. Her first son with David, what happened to him? He died. She had to go through the death of a son. Death of a son. Challenging thing to do. But then God gave her Solomon, right? Who became king. But she had to work hard at the end to get him to be king. Because Adonijah came in and said, I'm king. And they heard him having his festivities, and they, wait a minute. David said Solomon was going to be king. And so she went to the King David and said, hey, you need to make this right. And he did. And Solomon became king. So she fought for her children. Do you ever fight for your children? Do you ever go to battle for your children in some ways? Women? Probably so. What do they say? Don't poke a mama bear. You might get bit or something. Yes, she was there for her children. She stood up. It doesn't say what happened when she lost her child. Doesn't talk about that. Talks about David, his reaction, but not Bathsheba. But yet she had to deal with that as well. And then I come to, of course, maybe one of the best mothers, I don't know, Mary, mother of Jesus. I think about her and her life and what she did. Well, I still question a couple things about her. How do you lose a child that's 9 years old for 3 days? And I know if you've ever been a parent who has accidentally left your child out in a car or something like that and kind of oops, which there's one parent in here who's done this. My wife accidentally left a child in the car. Well, she had 2 twins. She got one in, and I don't know. She was just wore out. And just, it happens. But God took care of her. The child was in the shade, but that happens. Well, she lost a child. Tracy, you didn't lose a child for 3 days. All right. See? Aren't you blessed? So, but that it happens. Even the best of moms, something, you go to a store and all of a sudden your child disappears and you're going, where did they go? And you have to get on the intercom to get your child back. Or I think we got called one time, would so-and-so's mom please come to or dad please come to the front desk. So, it happens, right? It happens. But even as Mary, Mary accepted being a mother of Jesus at a point where she could have easily been taken out and stoned. Okay? She could have been killed for saying, hey, I will take care of this. I will have your child, God. I will do whatever you ask of me. At a time when she could have been stoned to death. But yet she was there and did it anyways. She risked her own life for her child. But there was also a time when she thought Jesus was crazy. And they went to do an intervention, basically, because Jesus wasn't being able to eat, and him and his disciples were overrun by people, and Jesus wasn't even being able to eat. So they were like, hey, we got to go get Jesus out of there. So she tried to do an intervention to save Jesus. And, of course, that didn't work out very well, did it? But that's the kind of, so that's a protective mom, but she also kind of thought, have you ever thought your kids were crazy? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they get kind of crazy. They do real strange things, and you don't quite understand why. And I think Mary had some of that. She was like, hey, this guy's crazy. He's gone off his rocker, so I'm going to save him. And you want to save your kid from those kinds of things, don't you? You want to protect your kids. But like I said before, I have never seen a perfect mother. I've seen some pretty good ones, and I've seen some questionable ones. Some you think, why did God ever let them have a child? But I also know that there are a lot of good moms. But I also know that there's a lot of them that no matter, if you look at all the ones that we talked about, look what Moses became. He led the nation of Israel. He was maybe one of the closest persons to God that's ever lived on the earth. And yet he was a murderer at one point. And then you've got other ones, Solomon and all the things that he did. He did some really good things. He also made some mistakes. He was the wisest man maybe to ever live. But yet, he also made some other mistakes. I'm not sure. I always question the wisdom of a man who has 700 wives. But yet, he was the wisest man to ever live. I question that, but the Bible knows better than I do, right? But yet, it doesn't matter sometimes who your mother is. Do you love your mother? If she's passed, I'm sure you still think fondly and love your mother. I know when I go into the prisons and I talk to the guys in jail there, they all tell me they love their mother. Even though their mother might not have been the best mother in the world, they still love their mother. And I think that's the same with us. Our mothers may not have been perfect, may not be perfect, but we still love them. We still want them around. And I think today, as we think of mothers and think of there's imperfections, the things that they have done wrong, but they've also done a lot of things right. And I know most of us, I'm guessing if your mother is passed, you think more of the things that she's done right than the things she might have done wrong. I know even with my mom, we do these questions about the traits. We ask for good traits and bad traits of your mother. I have a hard time coming up with very many bad traits of my mother. It's hard to do that. You don't want to say the bad things. So I know my mom's imperfect, but I love my mother, and I encourage you, if you've got any challenges with your mother, and she's alive today, work it out. You can do it. She loves you, and she cares for you. So let's love our mothers today, even though they might be imperfect. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I do thank you today for moms. Thank you for everything that they mean to us. And Lord, I sometimes wonder why you don't put a perfect example of a mother in there, and maybe I know why. It's because there's no such thing. And if we looked at one perfect one, we would never know how to reach that goal. But Lord, we do know that in most of our eyes, our mothers are near perfect. And Lord, I just pray that you would love them this morning. We thank you for them. And Lord, we even thank you for Eve, and because she still is the mother of everybody. We thank you, Lord, for your love. Continue to take those imperfections in our lives and make us stronger because of them, just as you've done with our moms. Those imperfections made them who they are, made us who we are. And I thank you for that. Guide and direct us this week. I pray that you just bless everybody. In Jesus' precious name, amen.